Excuse me. Look, happy 420.
In some way, because we do what we do without hurting other people. How many of us? If each one of us were to write a paragraph and send it to the right people, this would be over. It's like, hi, I lost my job based upon a drug test. I was the best worker and I have the documentation to prove it.
The war on drugs won't be won just by prayer alone. We gotta get out there. We gotta tell our representatives. We gotta, tell legislators. We gotta tell each other, tell our friends. Show them everything you can about why the war on drugs is horrible, why it hurts more and it helps.
I went from 14 to 15.
Oh, yeah?
I wasn't sure if it was before my birthday or after my birthday. My birthday's in July. It was that summer.
Me too. 14
to 15. But I didn't start out smoking every day. I smoked with my cousin the first time. Like a week or two later was some kid who used to try to get me to smoke, and I didn't want to smoke. And then once I did it with my cousin, it's like, okay, yeah, dude, I smoke too. So I smoked with him. And then it was like occasionally here and there. Then I was like a senior. I became a senior and had transportation. Then it became the everyday smoke. Then it became smoking all the time.
Hey, what's up? My name's Danny. I'm from Roseburg, Oregon. This is my piece I made for the World Cannabis Expo. I'm here in San Francisco.
Hold it still.
What are they for?
Straight up.
Like that.
Yeah, buddy. Get a good look at it.
Got it.
All right. Cool. Tell us about it. What's about the...
It was a nightmare to make. It was really fun though. It's my first piece that's like all reversals. What's the name of that company that makes this stick stack tubing? They're out of California somewhere. You can get it at windship.com. It's a revered tubing. It comes all straight like this, and you just pull it in little sections, and it's really fun to work with. You can get it at windship.com. It's pretty good stuff.
Thanks, man. Where can they find more of your work?
At glasspipes.org. I'm Danny Glass.
Thank you, Danny.
As you know, we got our petitions over here. If you're registered to vote, please go over here and sign this petition. If you want, go out there and get us some signatures. Just be sure to turn those in. Now, what our petition will do is it will legalize cannabis. Anybody that's over 21 will be able to grow their own cannabis without getting a license. It'll also let you breed cannabis and sell the seeds and starts without getting a license. If you want to sell the flowers or the buds, you'll have to get a license and sell it through the state system, which will allow things like wineries or brew pubs only for cannabis. So it's really going to make our economy boom and create thousands and thousands of jobs all across this state. It will basically also allow farmers to cultivate industrial hemp for paper, fabric, protein, and oil without a license, and the federal government cannot issue, you won't have to get any federal license. Our initiative, the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act, says explicitly that licensing at the federal level will not be permitted here in this state. And also, the strains for industrial hemp will be the most productive ones. You know, right now in Canada and Europe, they're able to cultivate industrial hemp, but they're limited to less than 1/2 of 1% THC. And what they've done to do that is they've bred out the THC by breeding out the flowers. And the flowers also are where they make the seeds. And it's the seeds that make the protein and the oil. So by breeding out the THC, we basically eliminated the competition for the petrochemical industry because you can't really get economical biodiesel fuel. Once we legalize hemp in Oregon, we will grow strains of hemp that produce the most and the best fiber, protein, and oil. And by doing that, I predict that within 5 or 10 years, most of our cars are going to be running on hemp seed oil. Most of our clothes will much wider choice to get hemp fiber clothing. It'll be a lot cheaper. The artificial regulatory burdens of having marijuana illegal make industrial hemp much more expensive. So when we legalize it, industrial hemp will return to its rightful place in our economy, and that will create tens of thousands of jobs all across this state. You know, right now we can look down at the Gulf of Mexico and we know about the horrible fire that wiped out that drilling rig in the Gulf of Mexico is spewing thousands of barrels of oil every day into the Gulf, destroying the environment, the fisheries there. If that was hemp seed oil being dumped into the Gulf of Mexico, the environment would be thriving. There would be healthier foods because petroleum is highly toxic. You can't even be around it and smell it without being poisoned. Where industrial hemp oil, you can eat it. In fact, it's like the healthiest oil you can use. I really believe that the whole reason marijuana was made illegal, outside of the obvious racist angle that the name implies, you know, it was anti-Hispanic and basically racist propaganda that they used to make marijuana illegal. I believe the reason it's illegal and the reason they spread those lies was to protect the petrochemical industry. They did not want the petrochemical industry, which is a capital-intensive industry where you have to have currently tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to drill for petroleum and tens of billions of dollars to process it into fuel and all the other 100,000 products they make out of industrial hemp. They didn't want to compete, so they made up these lies that they said there's this deadly new drug called marijuana. If they had said hemp, they never would have been able to do it because everybody was growing hemp, not in huge quantities because it's a very labor-intensive crop. But new machinery had been invented that made the hemp, automated the hemp process, and that dropped the price of the fiber. 100 years before, the invention of the cotton gin had cut the price of cotton fiber to 1/100th of what it had been. Well, the invention of this new machinery called decorticators dropped the price of hemp fiber 100 to 1. Came down to just a small fraction of what it had been. That's when the first marijuana stories started going out there. They said that marijuana caused people to go crazy and kill their family and their friends. Now, we know that's not true, and we laugh at it in that movie Reefer Madness. But that's what they believed. You know, they believed that there was, you know, they were told and they believed that this deadly drug caused people to go crazy and kill people. How, you know, we laugh at it these days, but that's basically what they said. So our petition would return hemp to its rightful place in our economy. It would allow people to grow marijuana as much as you want. As long as you're not selling the buds, you wouldn't have to get a license. You'd be able to breed, as I said, seeds and starts and also sell those. So if any of you out there are registered to vote, go over to that booth right over there, please, and sign the petition. If you're not registered to vote and you're over 18, there's voter registration cards over there. So you go over there and register to vote. You know, this was a great march here today. I heard the estimates were 900 to 1,000 people. That's about 25% more than last year. So I want to thank everybody out there who came out to march because we made a real statement. And we'll see it. You know, there are over 311 cities where this march happened. This is a global movement. And eventually, through our work and your work together, we're going to make the politicians sit up and take notice. You know, just this past week, there was a debate for governor for the Democratic nomination between Kitzhaber and Bradbury. And Bradbury said that he supports taxing and regulating marijuana. Kitzhaber, on the other hand, he signed the recriminalization bill to put us all in jail. And we got enough signatures back in 1997 to force it up for a vote, and we want every single county in this state, and we got 70% of the vote to stop recriminalization.